On this project, I'm going to turn an ATX power supply into a benchtop power supply. I'm going to mount it into a HP Pavilion slimline tower, and I got binding posts to put on for all the variations of voltage. And I'm also going to put amp and voltmeters in the front and variable pots. That way I can have adjustability in it too. The first thing I did, I bought a 2-pack of 10 ohm 10 watt wire wound resistors. You only need one to put a load on the power supply so it'll run stable. And I bought a printed circuit board to mount it on, and it's a little big for it but it'll work. And then I added a run of solder down each side, that way I can solder the wires in right here and then mount this inside the case. Some people just solder this in line with the wires, but I like this power supply to last me and be a little bit more durable, so I'm adding a little bit extra money to it. The binding posts I bought are, I believe, $3.50 for a pack of 2. I can't find my receipt right offhand, but I believe there's $3.50 for a pack of 2. And since I actually have an extra pack for the moment, but just for the variable outputs, or the various outputs that are already on the power supply, I need 4 positive and 1 negative terminal. And then so I had an extra 3, which I'll post a video of a project that I made with those. And then these I'm going to use when I put in the pots on the adjustable side of it. Oh, on another note, when you're doing stuff like this, I'm still a novice at electronics. Solder wick, get the best you can find, and it is your friend, because as you can see, I went a little over what I wanted to on the solder on the pads, and the solder wick sucked it straight up. I forgot to add, I used a piece of broken breadboard when I was soldering this on for a gapper to keep the resistor off the board a little bit, so to have an air gap and try to keep it a little bit cooler. The next thing is to hook one of the ground wires to one side of the resistor, and since this one has most of the power on the 5-volt rail, the red wire is the 5-volt. You hook that to the other side of the resistor. According Jumper One says that the power supplies 2000 and newer are the ones that have most of the power on the 12-volt wires, which is the yellow, and anything 99 and older is the ones that have most of the power on the 5-volt, which is the red. So you take one of the ground wires and solder it to one end of your resistor, and whatever wire that has the most power on it, you just solder to the other side of your resistor. And if you have a newer one and you're using the 12-volt, you have to have a bigger resistor. None of this is permanently mounted yet. I'm just getting it laid out, and then I'll drill holes to mount my standoffs later. And a side note, I decided to get rid of the fan that was in the case of the ATX power supply, and I dug through my box and got 2 bigger fans to help keep it cooler. The 115 230 switch that's on the back of the ATX case is just an off and on switch, and from what I can tell, 115 is on and 230 is off. So I cut my switch off, and I'm going to solder the 2 wires together, and it'll get all that out of the way, less mess, and it'll just be permanently 115. There they are, soldered together with heat shrink over the joint. The next thing is to extend the wires that go to the AC plug that's going to be mounted right here to run the power from the power supply up to the main switch and back to the plug. I just cut a section off of a PC power cord. If it'll carry the load from the wall to the plug, it should be able to carry the load from the power supply to the switch and back. Trim enough of the shielding off to where 1 wire will reach where the socket goes and 1 wire will reach the hot wire on the board, and then just cut the green wire, the ground, just cut it off because you only need 2 wires. I'm gonna run heat shrink all the way down and then cover both of them with a bigger piece of heat shrink, and then each solder connection will be heat shrink too, just to make it a little bit safer and a little less likely that I'll get a short in here and cross the main power with the power coming out of the power supply. Alright. So I got the wires that need to be extended. I got the wire ran from the transformer up to where it's going to go to the switch and back to the plug, and then I also changed out the ground wire and added a longer one on it so it'll reach that screw on the case. Now the next thing I'm going to do is wire for this. I actually picked it up at work today. It was like $5 that way, because I'm mostly going to use this to test stuff that I'm going to sell online. That way I can use this whenever I need to plug something in, like a GPS or something like that. But I'm going to go ahead. It came with wires with heat shrink spade terminals, so I'm going to go ahead and solder these in place, and then after the faceplate's made, I can just screw that to it, and then I'll heat shrink over the hot wire so that's completely enclosed. I'll get this, get the wires soldered up, and then I'll be back. I'm also going to add a dual USB setup to be able to power USB devices, and this came out of the front panel of an old computer, It already has the header panel on it, and this is the wires that was connected. I'm going to pull all the wires apart and get it cut down, and I'll show you what you need as soon as I'm done.